we've already said the pledge during the annual meeting, so we will not be doing that again. But we will start with action on the agenda, which is in board docs. Is there any corrections or changes to the agenda that you know of, Mr. Don?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
There's a motion on the floor made by Rick, seconded by Leslie, to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, respond with aye. And opposed, nay. Agenda is approved. I just have one comment about to the board. I would like to, unless there's if the board has an issue with it, I would like to move Mr. Huffman's update before public comment so that he has the opportunity to give his update, which I think is great for everyone to hear, and then we can have him he can be dismissed from the meeting. Is there anyone on the board that has a problem with that? Okay, excellent. We'll proceed in that way then. Okay, next item is action on the minutes, which are also in board docs from the last meeting.
I move to approve the minutes for the regular meeting held on August 9th, 2021, as presented. Second.
There's a motion on the floor made by Leslie, seconded by Jen, to approve the minutes for the regular meeting that was held on August 9th, 2021, as presented. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to vouchers.
Mr. President, I will move to approve general checking account vouchers totaling $425,210.01 and building fund 49 vouchers totaling $197,551 as presented.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor made by Joe, seconded by Leslie, to approve general checking account vouchers totaling $425,210.01 and the building fund 49 vouchers totaling $197,551 as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. So, Mr. Huffman, we will turn the microphone over to you. Thank you for being here tonight. Yes, right. Either side would be great, but that side's closer for you.
All right. Well, good evening. I'm happy to start my report with we're finished, at least with part of it. Last month I told you that there were some final touches to the middle school. There was some parking lot work that had to be done. There was some landscaping work. We were waiting on some windows that had been delayed. Those things are done, and we've officially called the middle school project complete. There are, of course, a couple of punch list items here and there that we'll follow up on, but I think those will not be noticed and are relatively minor. So. That was a good project. I appreciate the product, and I think you will too. Jumping over to the high school, of course, we're in the mad rush to complete everything before you need to use spaces. Happy to say that the academic spaces that are associated with the STEM wing, there were spaces within your existing building that connect to the STEM wing. Those didn't get turned over when the STEM wing proper got turned over. That was by design. Those spaces are now complete and will be available to you on the first day of class. Also looking at some of the other event spaces. The weight room specifically, new weight room equipment has been installed. That space is largely complete and will be ready for use here in the next week. Also, the wrestling room is essentially complete. Your existing gym has been refreshed and is ready for use. And then, of course, there are other spaces, as you noticed as you walked in. Both your event entry and your main entry are still under construction. Most of that is finishes that have to go on. So you'll see a rapid change in that over the next week. Locker rooms are being turned over now. Of course, the one space that we've talked about as a delay throughout the construction is your new gym. That has certainly turned the corner. Finishing activities are happening there. I didn't see it today, but Stephen just showed me a picture of them doing the early work in staining that floor. So good news there. Bleacher installation will follow that, and that'll be ready for your use at the beginning of October. I think I'll pause there and see if you have any questions regarding the construction process or progress. Excuse me. If not, just a quick touch on the financial side. We've basically reconciled the budget on the middle school project, and we are coming down to getting close to reconciling on the high school side. Obviously, we've retained some contingency dollars to get us through the finishing touches here, and hopefully you have a little bit of money to address things that you feel need to be touched up on the project as we conclude. But nothing really extraordinary to point out on the financial side. Any questions there?
Seeing no questions, I'll thank you for being here, and thank you as always for your thorough and well photographed updates. They're really helpful, and appreciate your time.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Real quickly before we move into public comment, I meant to read this before we got into official business, but it's a good segue because it has to do with the pool, the Leader family pool, and I don't know if all of you have had the opportunity to see the pool, but it is amazing. And if you haven't, I would really highly recommend that you take a visit to the high school and see the pool. It is such a beautiful facility that this community now has to use, not only for school, but for the community members. So this is a card from Terry and Tom Leader. It says, the Leader family would like to thank the Milton School Board, Rich Dauman, Superintendent, Jeff Spivak, Director of Activities, Stephen Schatz, Director of Buildings and Grounds, Brian Hamill, retired AD, Jeremy Billhorn, Principal, and the Friends of Milton Swim for the wonderful dedication ceremony for the Leader family pool. It is truly an honor that our family will treasure for years to come. It takes many people to create a dream such as the Leader family pool. We hope that the pool will provide many years of fun and fitness activities to be enjoyed by the Milton community. And that's signed from Tom and Terry Leader and their family. So we are now at the public comment section of the meeting. And I will just remind this is for the board, I will remind the board by policy, public comment is limited to 15 minutes. And Jeremy, I think if I could get that from you. So we now have approximately 35 letters that were submitted by email and 38 people that have signed up for public comment. Certainly that will not be done in 15 minutes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would offer a motion to temporarily modify board policy and extend the limit for public comment from 15 minutes to 60 minutes.
I will repeat, there are 35 letters that have been submitted by email, and there are 38 people signed up.
I will second Joe's
There's a motion on the floor made by Joe, seconded by Rick, to extend public comment from 15 minutes to 60 minutes, 1 hour. Did I get that correct, Joe?
Yep.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on that?
Yeah, I'd like to give just a little thought behind that. We've received a lot of emails from all of you folks, and we're grateful for that. Thank you. We read them to the best of our ability. I will personally confess that I had to stop reading emails at 4:30 this afternoon to milk cows, and there are 40-some that I didn't get to read yet. So if you've sent it recently, I apologize, but I read over the weekend, as did my colleagues, I'm assuming. I thought about this tonight. When I was board president, I witnessed an incident in Beloit that took 5.5 hours of a board meeting, and just was notorious for the anguish that it caused among folks, and I certainly don't want to do that. We do want to hear from people, but I would ask some of you folks that have submitted emails and or have signed up to talk. It's a kind of a two-sided issue, I guess, if you will, with folks on one side of it or the other, and at the risk of being redundant, we don't need 200 people to state their opinion and then 200 more people to state the exact opposite opinion. It probably won't help us. But in the interest of being fair and listening to what you folks have to say, I wanted to extend it beyond 15 minutes so that we could get a real good cross-section and hear what folks have got to say. If you feel like someone has said the exact same thing that you want to say and you want to step out of line, that will help us. But that's the reason for my motion to extend it to 60 minutes so we get, without being here all night, to get a reasonable chance to hear what people have to say.
Is there any more discussion on the motion?
How exactly are we going to read a letter and then have a person speak?
So if the motion passes, because I do not anticipate getting through all of these in the 1 hour, we will proceed in this manner. I will choose the first person on the list to speak, and I will choose the first letter to read aloud, and then I will go back to the next person. If that person would like to say, I choose not to speak, that's fine, then I'll go to the next person. And at the end of the hour, those letters and people that have had the opportunity to speak, that's who we will have heard from at the end of the hour. Is there any more discussion on this? So just so we understand, the motion on the floor is that we will extend public comment from 15 minutes to 1 hour, 60 minutes. Hearing no more discussion, all in favor, respond with aye. Aye. And opposed, nay. Motion carries. So before we start, I will just read a statement so that we're all on the same page and on the same wavelength here about public comment. Before we begin the public participation portion of the board's meeting, it is important for the board and the members of the public in attendance at the meeting to be reminded of the rules governing public participation. In accordance with Board Policy 167.3, members of the public have the opportunity to speak during the board's meeting at the time set aside for such public participation. However, such public participation is structured and subject to rules and expectations of decorum. Anyone seeking to speak during the public participation portion of the board meeting must sign up, be recognized by me, the board president, and announce their name, please. Number 2, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, and as a courtesy to speakers, I will set my clock on my phone, and at 2.5 minutes, I will just quietly say 30 seconds, so you know that you have 30 seconds to wind up your thoughts. If it is a long letter, I will ask someone else to do that for me, because letters shouldn't go past 3 minutes if public speakers don't go past 3 minutes. Number 3, speakers must direct their comments to the board, not to individual board members, to the district's administration, to staff, or to others attending the meeting. Number 4, speakers must avoid statements that are personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. And number 5, speakers must observe reasonable decorum. If a speaker violates any of these rules, as the presiding officer for the meeting, I will interrupt, warn, and/or terminate the speaker's statement. I'm going to say something right now about that. I've lived in this community for 30 years, and I've always been proud to say I live in Milton. And I know that tonight we can conduct this meeting with responsibility and respect for all in this room. And I want it to go in a way that would make our children proud in this community, because we're the adults. And so I want us to be able to conduct this meeting in a manner that our children can say, that's how adults respond and act. If a speaker is here to complain about the conduct of a particular district employee, the board is directing the speaker to refrain from bringing such a complaint verbally before the board during the public participation of the board's meeting. The board is not a fact-finding entity. The board has very specific duties with regard to supervision of district employees, which include the responsibility of serving as the impartial tribunal in any due process hearing involving a district employee. Instead of addressing such a complaint at the board meeting, the speaker should consult the district's policies to determine whether the complaint should be filed using policy 9130 or another applicable policy. The procedures included in such policies provides the board with the opportunity to address such a complaint in a way that preserves our right to offer appropriate due process to our employees. Finally, if you speak during the public participation portion of the board's meeting, you do so at your own risk. If you make statements that an individual or entity determines is disparaging or defamatory toward them, the board is unable to protect you from a defamation claim or other legal action that the individual or entity may bring against you. As a result, it is advisable to consider carefully whether what you plan to say is harmful to another person's reputation or other interests, and whether you are confident that it is factually accurate. If the content is harmful or if it is untruthful, you may be risking personal liability for the statements you are making in public today. This is not legal advice. Clearly, I am not a lawyer, but is simply a warning that just because you are speaking at a board meeting does not mean the board or the district can protect you. Thank you. So we will start. I will say who's up, and then I will say kind of who's on deck. We have two microphones on either side. So if you're on deck, I would appreciate it if you could head to a microphone. If I say you're on deck and you're not going to use your time, please let me know right away, and then I will call the next person on deck so we can keep this moving and we can get as many speakers in as humanly possible. I would like someone else to keep track of that hour, please. I have plenty of other things to be doing, so who would? Rick, thank you. I'll have Rick Mullen keep track of, the Vice President will keep track of that hour and let us know when that hour is up. So first to the microphone, and please speak clearly into the microphone, step right up to it, and so that everyone can hear what you have to say. Will be Peyton Miller. On deck will be Vanessa Varan, and I apologize if I mispronounce last names.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Peyton Miller, and I am going to be attending Northside as a fourth grader. Here are many reasons why I don't want to wear masks at school. It's difficult to breathe with a mask, and it's hard to go through the whole day without seeing anybody smile. And I want to see my teacher's face. I don't like how the mask makes me feel uncomfortable throughout the day. I hope you choose mask choice for this school year. I support other students that make the choice to wear a mask, and I just hope that you would give me the same choice to not wear a mask. Thank you for letting me speak.
Parsons. I am the mother of 3 children attending schools in the Milton School District, all of whom are too young to currently receive the COVID-19 vaccine. My husband and I were both born and raised in Milton and have been proud to now raise our children here. Some people grow up in a small town and can't wait to leave. Not us. We love our town, our schools, and our community, and want our kids to grow up surrounded by the same small town values that we were. A central value in small town life is taking care of one's neighbors. The point of wearing a mask during this time is to protect others in the event that you have been infected with COVID. Some very loud voices have been advocating for mask choice. That choice is for my masked children to protect their kids, but for their kids not to return the favor and protect mine. That is not how we do things here. That is not the Milton I was raised in. That is not the Milton I want my kids to inherit. We take care of our neighbors here. I implore the members of this school board to please mandate mask wearing for the upcoming school season. If some members of our community are unable to rise to the occasion and protect our children on their own, it may be time for the board to help them along. Again, that's from Beth Parsons. Vanessa.
Hi, my name is Vanessa, and I just want to share a bit of my history. My family moved to this area 13 years ago. When deciding to purchase a home, I was told over and over again, make sure you stay in the Milton School District. They are the district you want to be in. So here we are. Tonight, I know the topic is mask mandate versus mask choice, and I've been really hesitant to get involved in this issue at all for a number of reasons. But tonight, I've decided my voice deserves as much space as the loudest in the room. Throughout this pandemic, I felt alone. Although this issue should not be a political issue, it has become one for many. I identify as the ultimate. It is a lonely place to be, feeling it's me against all the world. But the reality is, I think there are many more me's in this world than I often believe. Today, I speak for all of us. I'm often in my head, and this mask issue has taken up far too much of my brain lately. I'll say right now, I do not know many things. I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not a historian, I'm not a political scientist. I'm a marriage and family therapist. When looking at this issue, I notice 2 sets of very loud voices. And in my practice, when I tend to notice when people get loud, it often comes from a place of fear. I believe we have 2 sides that are very afraid. One side's afraid of losing freedom, possibly being injected with vaccines they don't want, and having all their constitutional rights taken away. The others are afraid of them or their loved ones becoming ill, the world shutting down again, and a possible plague, basically taking out all of humanity. The fact is, probably neither of these extremes will ever happen. However, I always say perception is reality. Unlike others, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I honestly have no idea what your choice should be. I have opinions, and I don't put a ton of stock into my opinions because I live by the idea that just because I think I'm right doesn't mean I am. So to the board, yes, the board, as I believe that's who should make this decision, I'm asking you to do something much harder than just make a choice. I'm asking you to not vote based on fears. I ask you to truly listen to the other side of whatever your belief is. I want you all to be able to look me in the eye and argue the opposite of what you believe. Because if you cannot, you do not belong arguing this at all. Making decisions, not looking at the whole picture, but only the reality that you reside in is not representative of all of our community. Just take the information you receive, put yourself in others' shoes, and make your choice then. I trust that you are able to do this. I mean, you are the representatives of the Milton School District, the district you want to be in. Furthermore, no matter what happens today, I want everyone to remember, the board remember that a little family from Minneapolis found small town Milton and decided on this school district because of the community, education opportunities, and experience that our children would have. You were a community that we saw as loving, welcoming, and kind. I still believe this to be true. I ask of everyone today to walk out of here together understanding we are not that much different. We are just a bunch of humans trying to survive. We all have fears, hopes, and dreams for ourselves and for our children. The only difference is what we are afraid of. Please, Milton, stand together somehow. I stated earlier that a lot of things, I don't know a lot of things, but one thing I absolutely know to be true is united we stand, and divided our children will fall. Thank you. Jensen. And I will read a letter now from Kaylin Ayala. Good afternoon, school board members. My name is Kaylin Ayala. I have 2 children in the district who attend East Elementary. One is a 2nd grader and one starting kindergarten. To say they're excited is an underestimate, but as a parent, I am fearful for this school year if masks are continued to be a choice. These choices of others may bring a consequence that affects my child.
our family, and other children directly. My children cannot be vaccinated due to the age requirements, which means they have one less protective barrier compared to those of older students. The only chance they have at being properly protected against this horrible virus is a mask. Not only will they be wearing them to protect themselves, but to not spread anything to others. My children understand that by wearing a mask, they are helping others with this small gesture. They're putting the safety of others in our community before themselves. This is a concept most adults can't grasp, but my children do. My children are more than happy to keep their mask on all day and often wear it in the car because it's a habit for them. Not once this past year did they have problems learning or interacting with their teachers or classmates because of a mask. This school board has made a promise to keep our children safe so they can have a proper education. The only way to do this is to pass universal masking. This will ensure that our children stay safe and keep other children safe. What I love most about Milton Schools is that you have continued to put our children first, and I have faith you all will make the right decision today based solely on the safety of our children. Thank you.
I have a question. Why are you reading 2 letters at the same time that are 4 masks?
They're in no particular order. If you'd like to come mix them up, you're welcome to do that. So Evan Champus, you ready? Oh, hi Evan.
And I'd like to just say, first off, that I come here as nobody's enemy. I don't dislike any of you based on your choices, and I hope you don't dislike me based on my choice. I'm not here to fight anybody, and I don't come as anybody's enemy. I just want to almost kind of reach across the line and say that it truly is a choice. Whether or not you view it that way is up to you. Yeah, it does protect other people, but as Benjamin Franklin once said, those that sacrifice freedom for safety both deserve and will receive neither.
Yes!
Just because I seem to ride the crowd, Thomas Jefferson also says, I'd rather have violent freedom than peaceful slavery. And it's just something that we're teaching our kids, that it's okay to give up your right to put what you want on your face. It's okay to give up the right of what you want to say, what you want to stand for, just because it may protect you or somebody else. And that's not what freedom is about. Freedom's willing to go out and hurt yourself to do what you want to do. It's worth it to fight for what you want to, and what I'm up here saying is that it should be a choice. I don't have an issue with anybody wearing a mask if they want to. That's completely within their own right, and I will respect them for it. I keep my distance and I do whatever. I just don't want to wear a mask myself. I don't have an issue with anything else. I can do the distancing, I can do the whatever, I can do the sanitation. Should be washing my hands anyway. But I just don't want to wear a mask because it's hard looking around and seeing all these, I'm at the age where high schoolers self-conscious, right? Everybody's looking at me, you're picking yourself apart, you're almost objectifying yourself. And it's hard to look around and to not even see the people around you, their faces, they're just blank eyes staring at you all the time. And it really does almost kind of get to you. And I just want to go back to being able to look at somebody and see almost kind of what they think based on their face alone. It's a lot of subtle things. It's a lot of picking up on human interaction. Smaller children need that too. Learn how to read people's faces. It's very important life skills to know that, everybody else is a human too. They've lived a life as vivid as yours, whether that be 16 years of experience or 40. And I feel like masks don't do that justice. It doesn't.
30 seconds, Evan.
It takes away the humanity in humans. Just like how the whole issue of whether it should be a mask mandate or a mask choice, now it's just opinion versus opinion. Those who go against you, are immediately your enemy. You can't do anything with them. You can't do whatever. The whole masks thing is just pitted us against each other for no reason. And to that, I just want to say that masks should be a choice, and you're welcome to have your choice, whether it be against mine or for mine. I just hope that we can all respect each other and, come to it peacefully, I suppose.
Is Brian at the podium? Okay, on deck is Michael Barron or Moran. I'm sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. And then on deck will be Nicholas Klaus. Next letter I have in no particular order. Dear Milton families, we are in a unique moment. COVID cases are rising due to the more contagious Delta variant. More children are being hospitalized, some are dying, even those with mild cases can suffer months later with the debilitating symptoms of long COVID, the consequences of which could last a lifetime. We are all part of a community. We love our children and we want our schools to remain open. To that end, I request that you please bring back a mask mandate for students and staff this fall. Children under 12 cannot yet be vaccinated. They need our help. We know masks work. They decrease transmission by blocking the droplets that carry the virus. They are simple, effective, and our kids rocked them last year. They can do so again. We all need to look out for the most vulnerable among us. There are kids in the district with cancer or suppressed immune systems or complicated medical histories. They deserve our protection and our care, as does every child. Public schools have a mandate to do what's best for the health and well-being of all of its students. The CDC, the AAP, and the World Health Organization all agree that what is best for schools in the fall of 2021 is to have multi-layered mitigation strategies, including universal masking. We ask our kids to wear seatbelts, to observe speed limits, and to stay away from illegal drugs. These are things we do to keep them safe and because they are the right things to do. We protect our kids from harm, even when it is difficult. Masks should be required of all students and staff again, now that we know that even vaccinated people can pass the virus to others. It is not what we wanted to happen, but it is where we are. Hopefully, it is a temporary measure. It is the smart and responsible thing to do. Other districts in the area are choosing to require masks in their schools this fall, including Evansville, Beloit for middle and high school students, Stoughton, Oregon, Mount Horeb, Verona, Sun Prairie, and Madison. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. And this is from Dana Murphy. Are you Brian? Oh, you're Mike, right? So, Mike.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mike Barron. I have 2 children in the Milton School District and will be running for one of these school board seats in the next election. To the children of the families that haven't let up with masking since this started, we are fighting for you. We are with you. Some have fallen for the trauma-based mind control being broadcast daily, every day, everywhere we look, having their emotions used against them. Your parents love you and just want to protect you. But not even the summer of normal life for the people around them is enough to snap them out of it. Now we have tonight a trusted expert to tell them that all their fears have been answered, and that they need this to be true. The alternative is too much to bear. What is the alternative? The PCR tests were turned up to increase positive cases and create an illusion that was everywhere. The test couldn't and still can't tell the difference between influenza and COVID, so everything is COVID. If you look, December through February, death totals accelerated from 100,000 every 4 months to 100,000 in 30 days. They used the flu season to continue this. And now they aren't even using science to rationalize universal masking. Did you know that medical errors is the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States? If we're following the accepted narrative, then COVID is brand new as of 2019, and we are all learning this at the same time. How much we know depends on personal effort. Did you know that masks let in 97% of particles? Cloth masks let in 97% of particles. Based on our own visual evidence and experience, not the TV, kids are safe. Kids need to see masks. With the way things are, I question the motives of Beardmore and Dami. Masking our kids now is psychological warfare, preparing them to be future vaccine customers once approved. Those we were taught to trust are now actively selling the vaccine as health. The FDA just approved a new medication called Pradaxa to stop blood clots in children 3 months to 12 years. Blood clots are the main side effect from the COVID jab. They are preparing to make money off of your child's reaction to the jab. Back in the 40s and 50s, doctors recommended different brands of cigarettes. And that's when it hit you, that your very own family pediatrician is here to show for Big Pharma. To students, you were living in a time that would be written about for decades. Organize, plan walkouts, be heard. You were part of history, own it. The right to be who you want is being taken. It won't stop at masks. This isn't about politics, race, or religion. This is about freedom to choose for everyone. To the board members, take your stand now. Vote no on these recommendations.
30 seconds.
Deboard the train and walk away. Once in the tunnel, there is no going back. Stay mask optional. Thanks.
But Heather, you said you will deter your time if only allowed a certain number of speakers. Is that still how you feel?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. On deck then will be Joseph and Elise Rasmussen. Could I ask one of you to speak?
No, actually, I would like everybody to be here tonight, both those who put in their emails and those who signed up. I signed up and did not send an email because I was of the understanding that I would be here.
So are you choosing both of you to speak then? Okay, perfect. Then you're on deck. Thank you. Next letter is from Sheila and Quentin Williams. Hello, Dahlman and school board members. I wanted to take the time to say how disappointed, angry, and sad I am to see your recommendations, Dahlman, on making masks mandatory and not a choice. As we all know, COVID-19 doesn't affect children in a way that warrants masking. Every year, there is an estimated 3,960 fatal unintentional drownings in kids. That is an average of 11 drowning deaths per day. Approximately 400 children have died from or with COVID, and of those, a huge percentage had underlying conditions. So I assume since more kids have died from drowning, we should mandate life vests in school, correct? I could go on here, but I won't. There was about 200 influenza deaths in kids in 2019-2020, and we did not have a mask mandate for influenza ever. I know the CDC guidelines for schools and the RCHD are way off base and unwarranted and are just that, guidelines that are not based in science but fear and politics. We, the parents, should have the power to decide what is best for our own children, and if your child has an underlying condition or you have a high-risk grandpa, then mask if that makes you feel better, but don't force me or my kid because you are protected, right? I will seriously look at other districts' options if mask mandates are put in place. It sickens me that the issue is even up for debate. What will be next, mandatory vaccines or else? Families made their school decisions based on what is currently set in place, optional masks. I'm disappointed that 10 days before school starts that this issue is potentially going to be changed and thus not allowing time for families to find alternate districts or alternatives to the school year. I was hoping, as was your point during the summer, that you wouldn't change up these protocols just days before school starts, because that would be unfair to all the families who chose to send or not send their kids to school based on the current guidelines sent out. All families had a choice to make an informed decision before the start of school with the policy of masks being optional and are aware of the current protocols. Changing mask policy now, days before the school year starts, would be unfair to all the children and families, regardless of their opinions on what the protocols should be. They all base their decision knowing up front before the start of school what they are signing up for. I hope the masks being optional stays in place after the board meeting this Monday. It is what is best for our children and what the right thing to do based on the science. Can this please be read at the school board meeting, which is what I just did. So, Nicholas, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Nicholas. I would like to address those on the board and anyone else here in favor of imposing mask mandates on our children. To you, I say this. There are many virtues that we hold, but we do not necessarily prioritize them the same way. You may value safety over liberty, and I vice versa. This puts us at odds, as is to be expected, but consider the event and each of us getting our way. Should I get my way and mask choice stays where it is, you may still take action you see fit to ensure the safety of your students. Your top priority can still be met and considered first and foremost because liberty allows you to do so. Whatever actions you choose, masking, tracking, tracing, spacing, sanitizing, whatever it is, no one would be forcing you to take an action or not take an action. And thus you could continue to act according to your principles. However, should you have your way today and the masking becomes mandatory, I would have my liberty as a parent stripped, hobbled by force to a lower priority in my eyes. I would not be given the option to stand upon my principles. You would have it that my hands be tied to your values, but I would have it that all of our hands be unbound in this matter. This is the difference between tyranny and liberty. Whether or not the individual would be beholden to the will and priorities of another, be it a ruler, a vocal minority, a less vocal, silent majority, or anyone else. I appreciate that we have different perspectives and values. It is what makes a community strong, diversity of thought. But as I hope you now realize, without liberty, such diversity cannot exist within our society. Do not bind our hands to your principles, for we would show you the same respect.
Joseph, you're up next, and then Elise, you're on deck. The next letter is from an Adam Fauché. I'm going to pronounce this wrong, so I apologize. Fauché. Hello, I hope this message finds each of you well. I am writing to you today to express my support of the universal masking policy that was disseminated recently. I truly believe this policy looks out for the best interest and safety of all students, teachers, and staff in the district. The CDC, DHS, Rock County Health Department, and the American Academy of Pediatrics all advise universal masking in schools given the highly contagious nature of this variant. Children have been shown to be more susceptible to this particular variant. In my home state of Louisiana, there are children's hospitals that are at capacity with children needing medical attention due to COVID. While we all wish COVID was over, it is far from that. As of writing, both total positive cases and positive test percentage have increased dramatically in the last few weeks and are well over the numbers seen last year at this time. Many students in the district are not eligible for any sort of vaccine and likely won't be eligible for at least another 4 to 6 weeks. Masking is the only tool available to this young population that gives them some sort of defense against the virus. Not only am I a parent of a second grader in the district, I am a microbiology instructor at Black Hawk Technical College as well. BTC has had a mask mandate in place since the pandemic began, and although we have had individuals test positive for COVID, we have not had one instance of community spread on our campus because of the masking policy in place. I respectfully ask that you support the policy that Superintendent Dauman put forward. The only way we will ever get through this is by working together and looking out for each other. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my concerns and for the time you spend serving on the board. Joseph.
Good evening. I am Joseph Rasmussen. I live and coach within the Milton School District, and I'm also a licensed teacher. My wife and I chose Milton for my 3 student athletes this fall because of your mass choice policy, and because historically, MSD has been a great institution of learning and extracurricular activities. It is suspicious at best, Mr. Dauman, that you chose until after enrollment closed to roll out your proposal for the universal mandate for masking students, athletes, staff, and teachers of MSD. And I can assure you one thing, masking ain't gonna happen. My children will go to school under mass choice, or we will pull them out of this district.
easy way out and implement a model much like many other schools are doing, allowing one wing to be designated as a bubble, with all classrooms within that wing dedicated for those students whose parents choose to mask their children. A logistical nightmare? Nah. I like to see challenges as opportunities. In this case, it's an opportunity for you to earn your paycheck again. Because our taxes do not pay you to read stats from government websites. If you want CDC control,
Mr. Rasmussen, your comments are bordering on rude, and it's my job to make sure that doesn't happen.
Duly noted. If you want CDC control, Mr. Bowman, if you just want to do whatever RCHD recommends, then why do we need you? Now to the board. I ask that you stop taking the easy way out as well. Stop allowing Mr. Dahman to dictate proposals. Working up proposals is your job. Sure, pulling my children from the district you represent won't have financial repercussions this year, but it will in the following years. This is, of course, in the form of the cuts of the funding designated to each of my children by the state. But I shouldn't have to pull them. My children are protected by law to the least restrictive environment for their education. And that, to me and to them, is mask-free. If others want to mask their children, then I propose a complete rewrite to Mr. Dahman's proposal. All mask choice with bubbled wings of protection for students whose parents so desire. This is compromise, my friends. This is the beauty of the constitutional republic in which we live. And, speaking of, as I previously mentioned, I demand we stay here until everyone who signed up and everyone who sent in public comments is heard. Thank you.
Thank you. The next letter is from Michelle Arduengo. Dear Mr. Dahman and Board of Education members, I write in support of mandated masks, appropriate physical distancing, and appropriate ventilation for indoor activities as recommended by the Centers for Disease Control Guidance for COVID-19 Prevention in K-12 Schools, issued on August 5th, 2021, and available on the CD website. Listening to and respecting the expertise and experience of our leading scientists and public health practitioners is critical to executing an effective pandemic response. While vaccination remains the leading prevention strategy for COVID-19, indoor masking and physical distancing are simple, inexpensive ways to protect at-risk individuals and those who either cannot be vaccinated or who cannot mount an adequate immune response when vaccinated, particularly in light of the highly contagious SARS-CoV-2 Delta variant that is now circulating. As a scientist, I have been so proud of the amazing work our healthcare workers, virologists, and public health experts have done to understand how the SARS-CoV-2 virus is spread. They have developed and deployed rapid testing and effective vaccines quickly. The least we can do to support their tireless work is follow the simple guidelines these same experts recommend for masking, hand washing, ventilation, and physical distancing when indoors. Other communities that have not implemented these precautions are running out of both pediatric and adult ICU space and even asking residents to boil water. Orlando, Florida, because liquid oxygen used in the water treatment process is being diverted to hospitals to treat COVID-19 patients. We have the power to potentially save lives and avoid such catastrophes by following simple public health guidelines that require minimal effort on our part. Please, for the safety of our young people, institute COVID-19 protocols that reflect the current recommendation of the CDC. Thank you for your consideration. Elise.
My family decided to stay in the district because of mass choice. We appreciated that Milton School Board recognized that whether they agree with wearing a mask or not, it's the right of the parents to make that decision and not that of the school board, their administration, or anyone else. You have a speaker addressed in the minutes today to speak on his opinions for COVID and changes to our masking policy. In his profile at SSM Health, he states, "My style is focused on two things, helping the family best understand their medical care, and then assisting both the parents and their child in making the healthiest decisions for their child's future. Note how the words school, school board, or superintendent are not listed at all in that treatment statement. It says the family, the parents, and decisions for their child. You go to the CDC's page and search human studies of masking and SARS-CoV-2 transmission. They list the top 5 studies they use to justify that masks work. The first one is for 2 hairstylists in Missouri. The next is 124 Beijing households. Then a case from Thailand for 1,000 people who were only interviewed after the fact by a contract tracer. Fourth is a study on the USS Theodore Roosevelt, where they asked military personnel to track their use of masks. Again, not a controlled collection of data. Last followed passengers aboard flights upon longer than 10 hours, where results only suggested in the end that masks actually worked. All are only a month or 2 in length. None are controlled studies, none study long-term use, and none include children specifically. The next paragraph, the CDC has the audacity to dismiss an actual controlled study done in Denmark, including 3,030 people, because the study showed that there was no conclusive evidence between those who wore masks and those who didn't. They dismissed the study because it was too small. So 3,000 people plus is too small, but 2 hairstylists in Missouri is okay. Masks are currently only EUA authorized for this use and are not approved or licensed by the FDA. They are by definition experimental, which require people to be given the right to refuse them under the Nuremberg Code. You can be in favor of something but be opposed to it being mandatory. Choice allows our district to remain inclusive. To give all our students their equal right to an education without discrimination for their beliefs or their medical status. It's the right choice for our district. Lastly, I would request that unlike last time this policy was up for debate, you give everyone on the board a chance to discuss the policy openly before firsting and seconding this motion and bulldozing through to a vote. Thank you.
So Amy, after I read this next letter, you'll be next, and then after that, Axelmore, you're on deck. So our next letter is from Autumn Cumlian. Dear Milton School Board, as a healthcare worker in a local hospital, I've experienced what COVID-19 is capable of. To not only protect ourselves, but others, we wear our masks. I have considered those who choose not to be vaccinated or those who do not want to wear a mask. I have found their motivations to be driven by emotions, as a substitute to fact-driven logic. Although I emphasize and share these emotions with them, we cannot put the blinders on and ignore the facts that scientific information and statistics reveal. These individuals are completely shutting out the numbers and the real-world situations that are playing out, predominantly down south, where we continually see irresponsible, relaxed guideline enforcement. As a parent of children of the Milton School District, I made the decision to educate my children all virtually throughout the last school year due to my husband's health issues. Although we made it work, it had its challenges with both my spouse and I working full-time and having to rely heavily on grandparents to keep our elementary student on task. We were one of the fortunate ones. Many parents, families do not have this luxury to have such support or workplace flexibility. Loss of jobs could have been the result. A very critical component that was missing from virtual learning was my children's ability to interact with other children in a schoolyard setting. Seeing each other in person allows interaction, improved mental health, and creates a better learning environment. This can all be achieved by attending school in person with universal masking. I strongly urge Milton School District to require universal masking for students this coming year as per the latest CDC, DHS, RCPHD, and AAP guidance, and especially with the outbreak of the highly transmissible Delta variant. If we do not require masking, we unfortunately will be experiencing school shutdowns and returning to virtual learning. Let's be smart and not repeat history. Until all school-age children under 12, have the opportunity to be vaccinated against COVID-19, we need to continue to protect them. Even vaccinated individuals can get and spread COVID-19. And while they will be well protected against getting seriously ill, they still may transmit the virus, particularly to those who are unvaccinated and or immune compromised. While children are thankfully less likely to die or require hospitalization than adults, many are still developing long-term symptoms from the virus many months after the infection. Hopefully all our children will soon have an opportunity to be vaccinated, but until then, we need to continue to protect them with masking. None of us have the constitutional right to spread infection to others. Jacobson versus Massachusetts. Amy, you're up next. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Amy. I'm delayed, too far away from this thing. I'm delayed talking about this or making a public statement about this. I've been teaching here since 1999. I graduated from this school in 1992. I love this community. I've devoted most of my life to trying to provide educational opportunities for kids. I've traveled with over 2,000 kids all over the country. And so before I say what I'm going to say, I just want people to know that when I travel with kids, the number one thing I'm thinking about is their safety. I think that's the number one thing. And I've traveled with kids, thousands of miles away. And so safety is very, very, very significant for me. Just grab my clipboard here. So here's the deal. People that I love, probably people in this room that I love, are on both sides of this issue. And so this is not a political statement for me. Like, this is not political. I'm not going to accuse anybody in here of being a right-wing conspiracy theorist. I'm not going to accuse anybody of letting fear dictate their lives. I mean, that's not for me to decide. That's not how I feel about that. I care deeply about this school district, about the kids here, about the families here. I have 7 kids, 2 graduates from here, 5 kids that will be in the schools this fall, and I'm super excited about that. What we're seeing here is the fact that there are a lot of facts, and there are really good people on both sides of this issue that are well-meaning. And I love that. This is actually awesome. Like, I wish all the kids were here to see this. This is the way it's supposed to work, right? It's awesome. So I really appreciate all of you guys being here. But I do think, I want to thank all of you too, because it is very difficult to be in this situation, and there are good people on both sides of this issue in this room, okay? That's why I need to talk. I am not in favor of universal masking. I'm not in favor of it. I may have a little bit different perspective on it than you, but I won't demonize you for that. And I ask you not to demonize me for that. People that know me won't demonize me, even if you don't agree with me. When I think of the COVID situation, what I see is just all these missed opportunities for kids. And that's what's kept me up at night since March of 2020. That's what's made me lose sleep, is constantly missed opportunities, educational opportunities, activities opportunities, athletic opportunities.
30 seconds, Pat.
Oh, that stinks. A teacher, I can't. I'll do my best here. Here's the deal. As far as missed opportunities go, we had a great opportunity here with our mask choice policy to bring kids in here and encourage them to look at somebody else that thinks differently than them and be okay with that. And vice versa. I think that's really, really important for kids. And I don't want to miss another opportunity for that. And that's the truth. Who are the best people, in my opinion, when you have conflicting data and lots of smart, good people that want to do the right thing for their kids and their community? What do you do when you have conflicting data?
Thanks, Pat. Your time is up. Can you finish it up, please?
Sure, I'm sorry. The best people, in my opinion, to make the decision for their family and their children are the parents of those kids.
So after I read the next letter will be Axel, and then next letter is very brief. It comes from Philip Calvenga. Dear Mr. Dahman and Board of Education members, I write in support of mandated masks, appropriate physical distancing, and appropriate ventilation for indoor activities as recommended by the Centers for Disease Control, guidance for COVID-19 prevention in K-12 schools, as issued on August 5th, 2021. Please, for the safety of our young people, institute COVID-19 protocols that reflect the current recommendations of the CDC. Thank you for your consideration. Axel.
You're allowed to wear you don't have to wear masks at recess, but you have to wear them inside. You should just keep it mask optional.
Thank you, Axel. After Jim speaks, on deck will be Michaela Keebler. This next letter comes from Megan Perez. My name is Megan Perez. My husband and I have 2 children in the Milton School District, both too young to receive the COVID vaccine. Let me start by going back to March 2020 for a second. Virtual learning, while completely necessary, was very hard on our family. Our youngest was not in school yet, but our oldest was in 3rd grade. He's very social, so learning from home was not ideal for him. In fact, it was extremely difficult, and we had many bad days. We were all very happy that he was able to go back in person last year, and our daughter, who is also very social, was excited to begin her school career in 4K in person. We felt that the safety protocols that were in place made in-person learning safe, and were impressed with how the district was able to contain the virus and keep cases at a minimum. In our opinion, everyone wearing a mask was a big part of that. As I'm sure you are aware, Rock County Health and the CDC recommend that everyone wear masks while in public settings. From the beginning, it has been stated that masks are most effective when everyone wears them, as wearing one does more to protect those around you should you be infected with the virus. Our children will be wearing masks regardless of the board's decision to protect those around them. We hope and pray that a mask mandate is put in place so that our children are guaranteed that same courtesy. I will end with a question. Why would we want to go against the recommendations of the experts and change the protocols that have been proven to work? Thank you for taking our thoughts into consideration.
I'm Jim Moore. I got 2 kids in the district, 1st grade and 3rd grade. I just want to start out by thanking the board for making the district mass choice back in June for the 2nd half of summer school. It's greatly appreciated. Students' morale greatly increased during that time. I find it very ironic that every board meeting since then, no one on the board has been wearing masks. If this was truly a concern to you, you would have been wearing a mask at every meeting. I personally have watched every meeting for over the past year and have been silent until now. I, along with numerous people in this district, are fed up with the board rubber stamping almost everything the superintendent puts forward. You, as board members, were elected to represent us as taxpayers of the district, and most importantly, the students, not the superintendent. So why not stick with our recently decided mass choice decision? Is it so bad to give our students and staff the choice? Are we going to go back and forth on masks every time, or masks and vaccines every time a new variant comes up? The Wisconsin Hospital Association stats last week showed that 0.007% of the population in our HERC region were hospitalized by COVID-19. 99.993% of our region was not hospitalized due to COVID-19. That data point alone should be enough to leave mass choice in place and up to us parents. Less than 1% hospitalized when we were not masked, not socially distanced, playing sports, hanging out in mass gatherings, and our kids have the highest immunity recovery percentage of all the population in the world. Why? We as parents have watched our kids suffer through the last year and a half of school with unnecessary shutdowns, poor virtual learning, unwanted masks, and most importantly, watched all of them fall behind because of this. My kids fell behind in reading because they couldn't see their teachers enunciating words. We couldn't have reading specialists in the schools because of everything. Not to mention the mental health toll that's taken all kids nationwide. I shouldn't have my kids complaining daily about masks, being uncomfortable to breathe, and having uncomfortable learning environments due to having to wear masks mask and not be able to see their teacher's facial expressions, enunciation of words, or their friends' faces. It was so great when mask choice during summer school and my kids' morale greatly increased in their learning environments. We as parents should have the choice of whether or not our kids are masked, not the board, not the superintendent, not the administrators, or any elected official in this country. It's our job as parents to make the best choices for our kids, and it's the school's job to teach non-biased, equal education for all kids. These masking, vaccine, and quarantine mandates and constantly changing the rules create nothing but discrimination and division in our own district. I asked the board to take a careful review of the discriminating quarantine mandates that were put in place based on mask and vaccination status, especially for our younger students who have no virtual learning option if they are quarantined.
30 seconds, Mr. Moore.
It's time to put an end to all this and let the kids be kids and let us parents decide if our kids should be masked. Let's follow the lead of other districts in this great state of Wisconsin that have kept mask choice in place. Thank you for your time.
So after Michaela goes on, that will be April, and I'm sorry, April, I'm going to pronounce your name wrong, Johanna. The next letter is from Mark Mezzera. As a mask choice family, I feel it's important that the board understands how large of an impact this situation has on our enrolled children. The idea of being forced to wear a mask during school again this year is a huge source of stress for our enrolled children. It's much more than simply wearing the mask, as some advocates allege. It cannot be reduced to a simple request. It is not. The mental health concerns are documentable and arguably much more impactful than this virus is on children. Students and families who choose to wear masks absolutely have that right. Mask choice policy does not take away their rights. Universal masking clearly does take away the rights of students and families that feel equally as strongly. We understand the risks. This choice should be ours, and the board should not feel the obligation to supposedly stop the spread of any communicable disease. That's not fair of the community to expect of them. Please consider the precedent this idea could set. Where does it ever end if the board takes that on? I do not believe the board has the obligation, if a universal masking policy is proposed, to immediately abolish all forced quarantining. Making healthy children miss out on precious educational opportunities is a serious violation of the board's main purpose, to provide a quality learning environment for families that fund and support this district. Thank you. Michaela.
Hi, I'm Michaela.
And Kendall, sorry to
Yeah, and Kendall, she's just here to support me because I'm Michaela. I'm currently a junior at the Milton High School. I've attended Milton School District my entire life. I've never heard my mom so disappointed in how our school has handled the COVID-19 pandemic. She has always praised how much she has loved this school to anyone and everyone she's ever met. She's always had mine and my siblings, which attend Northside Intermediate School, with the best interest at heart. Since COVID, my anxiety and depression has increased. My depression got worse because I was home all the time. I was lonely, in a dark room with a computer, constantly on a laptop, doing homework, 24/7, trying to raise my grades. That also goes on with the anxiety. I couldn't get my grades up because of not having the right education that I deserve. I'm not being able to go to school and seeing my friends playing the sports that I love and being among my peers affected me greatly. The mask is very uncomfortable, itchy, makes me need to itch my face. Also, wearing glasses with it is very irritating, it fogs it. And I know there are masks that can make your glasses not fog up, but to be honest, they don't work. Another thing I hate is not being able to hear my teachers. Because of the mask, it muffled their voices and not being able to see their face. And not even being able to see someone smile at you every day is challenging. You expect us to be responsible young adults. So why not allow us to make the decision that we are responsible enough to make? When we are sick or have a cough, and through all that, I have not gotten COVID-19 once. Yes, I am cautious. I wash my hands 24/7. I stay home if I do not feel well. With all due respect, why can't we just go back to normal? I will conclude this by saying it's pretty sad to stand here and give this speech knowing that forcing people to wear a mask should not be a thing. What should be more important is why you will require us to go on a 14-day quarantine if we come into close contact with someone else who has COVID, or if I have gotten COVID myself, with no online support or video chat with my teachers to help me. I will have to go 14 days without the help that I deserve to learn the things that I need to go on to college, which you are showing me how to do. Seems like that the masks are more important than making sure we get the education we deserve. Also, another thing I have to say is that I also am a varsity cheerleader for the Milton football team, and if you require masks, then that means I am required to wear a mask to practice. And to be honest, it's really, really hard to breathe when you are basing with a mask on or tumbling with a mask on. It can prevent kids to faint, get overheated, and I've seen it at my job that I worked at. A girl was wearing a mask playing softball, and she had a heat stroke because she was wearing that mask, and she was not able to breathe the proper way. Thank you.
So after I read this next letter is April. Johanna, is April ready? Oh, okay, excellent. And then Dr. Lee Tracy. This next letter is from Tammy Goldstein, I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Moving forward for the 2021-2022 school year, the only appropriate COVID policy should be mask choice, no social distancing, and no mandated vaccines. If the school district mandates or holds a vaccine clinic on school grounds, the onus of responsibility to provide informed consent falls on the school board, the Milton School District, and the superintendent to provide informed consent. It falls on Milton School Board to provide the duplicatable, peer-reviewed scientific studies showing the mask work, the risks and benefits, as well as for the vaccine. The vaccine is experimental. There is more evidence to show the harm mask wearing causes physically, emotionally, and socially, especially to a child who is breathing back bacteria all day long. The psychological damage is detrimental. There is a drastic increase amongst our children of anxiety, depression, and suicide. The younger children lose out on learning very important social skills. We take away their voices and we take away their self-esteem. In respect to social distancing, if there's any study showing the benefit of this, it's elusive to the entire country. An inability to provide the peer-reviewed duplicatable scientific studies makes mask wearing, social distancing, vaccines, and vaccine incentives for our children victims of forced human experimentation. The Nuremberg Code was established in 1947 by the United States of America to address the legal, ethical, and moral concepts in respect to human experiments. The School District of Milton, the school board, and the superintendent can be held morally, ethically, and financially accountable for physical and mental harm caused by these human experiments. The parents of your district feel coerced to participate or lose an education for their child. The parents feel duress by being forced to participate. This goes against the basic Nuremberg Code. The voluntary consent of the human participant is essential. The Nuremberg Code also requires that the human participant be of legal age to make that decision to participate with full informed consent and the opinion to opt out at any time. It was appalling to see that the district held a vaccine clinic for an experimental medical procedure when children have a 99.99% recovery rate for the virus. To date, according to the CDC, there have been over 12,000 deaths from the shot and over 600,000 adverse reactions, and we haven't seen the last of the effects of the COVID shot. Seems during all previous attempts at a SARS coronavirus cell therapy vaccine during the animal trials, all the vaccinated animals later exposed to the virus again died. They died so often the animals' trials were discontinued. The humans receiving the vaccine are the current animal trials. The Centers for Disease Control updated the 2020 numbers for COVID for COVID deaths, and they admitted that only 6% of the 220,000 deaths were actually COVID deaths. The PCR test currently used to decide whether or not somebody has COVID is faulty, and the CDC is discontinuing its use in December. They currently have no test that can differentiate between COVID and the Delta variant or COVID and the common cold or flu. Anything in the past could be forgiven, but moving forward, especially when children have a 99.99% recovery rate, makes any COVID protocol instituted by the Milton School District subject to the legal ramifications under the Nuremberg Code. Your job ends at education. It is not within your job description or legal power to make any individual medical decisions for a child. That right remains with the parents. April.
I am not a doctor, but I do have a fancy title. It's mother. I have put my faith in this school district to educate my children, and as a mother, I reserve the right to make the medical and health decisions for them as well. I respectfully request you give parents and families the choice to have their child wear a mask. There are really, really good people that I know in this community. I've seen your posts online. You don't agree with how I feel, and you've said some really, really hurtful things about my heart. I stand with you no matter what. I will not change. I support you if you want your child vaccinated, and I support you if you want your child to be in a mask. I'm just asking for the same respect and support back. I know best for my child. You are the parent. You know best for your child. If you want them masked up and you want them vaccinated, please do that. But please respect our decision to keep our children safe.
On deck is Laura Vanru, and I have a very short letter here from Rick Hanna. Kind of coincidental. My name is Rick Hanna, and I am 13 years old, going into middle school. I don't want the mask mandate anymore in the school district. It is hard for kids to focus on their learning, and I couldn't breathe in my mask last school year. I would like you board members to get rid of the masks so kids don't snitch on me when I take it off and the teachers yell at me to put the mask back on. Please take the mask mandate away, please, so we can all breathe and see each other's faces. Thank you, Rick.
And said, no, Mom, I can type a couple sentences, so that was all I thank you. Good evening, my name is Tracy Hanna, and my son is headed to 7th grade. Not living in paralyzing fear of COVID-19 is not the same as not believing that the COVID is a real illness. I am not anti-mask, I am pro-choice. We have been through 17 months of fear-mongering, changing data, missed messaging, and mandates, and for one, I'm tired. I'm tired of constantly being told what to do, when to do it, and being threatened if I dare to ask questions. Real questions that impact my family. The administration's guest speaker tonight is already published, and I quote, "Instead of arguing about the science, let's try to get our kids back in school and our parents back to work. To do that, it's simple. To do that, get vaccinated, wear a mask." I disagree. We should debate the science, especially since the science changes on a monthly basis, and since the science impacts me and my family. Specifically, what is the long-term impact of masking on children? Also, which science do we believe? The CDC, the WHO, who, by the way, based on what I read, differ in masking guidance for children. Medical decisions should be made with the input of one's own personal physician. What works for your child may not work for mine. Your child may feel comfortable wearing a mask, and that's great. Or your child may be concerned that if others don't wear a mask, they will be forced to quarantine and miss a football game or miss the homecoming dance. So they don't care about wearing a mask, and that's great as well. But there are children in this school district, believe it or not, who have other concerns, such as being able to breathe properly when they're in a warm classroom, or those who have anxiety from masks that result in their inability to focus on learning and their test scores drop. Or maybe the child with sensory issues that ends up causing other harm to themselves, to distract from the mask when they are forced to wear so that they don't remove it and get yelled at in class. You know what I'm really tired of? The evil shown by some with opposing viewpoints towards parents who would like choice for their children. Never once have we attacked parents for wanting their kids to wear a mask. I cannot say that, and I quote, "There are several online education options available for families who prefer not to vaccinate or mask. I am not sure how tiny they make ventilators or coffins, but it seems some families are determined to F around and find out," end quote, concerned parent towards mask choice.
That was sick, Dr. Chan. That is disgusting.
This is the most disgusting statements I could have read. How evil and unwarranted. Why? Because I wish for students to have body autonomy? Was there an increase in cases in Rock County a few weeks ago? Yes. Has it now come down? Yes. The positivity rate has decreased from 7.2% to 5.9%. I spent 5 hours this weekend digging into the data and sending it to the board.
30 seconds.
Hospitals are no worse off now than what they were when Rock County dropped its mandate. I ask you, what is wrong with personal choice? This pandemic has truly torn this spine community apart, and it is very sad to see. Thank you.
Say that you were on deck, so I will give you your chance to speak. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Laura Van Roo, and I am a pediatric and prenatal chiropractor. I've been providing health care in Janesville for almost 20 years. I'm a mother to 2 daughters who go to school in the Milton School District. They were both very happy, as was I, when the board voted to make mass choice their policy for the upcoming school year. I'm asking you to please vote to keep this mask choice policy in place. I will not try to convince you to have the same opinion as I do about masks, whether they do more harm than good, or whether they even work to prevent infection or transmission of COVID-19. We've all had enough time in the last 17 months to do our own research, to look at the existing data, to be aware of what our local health department and other organizations recommend, listen to and consult with health care providers, including our own personal healthcare providers, on who know our individual situations and health conditions and those of our children best. And we are able to form our own opinions and decisions about masks and whether or not we want our children to use them. I'm here to advocate for the choice of parents to do what they feel is best for their children and not to have you make that decision for us. As a healthcare provider, I know very well the importance and necessity of informed consent. Before administering any healthcare treatment or measure that I recommend, I must inform that patient of any and all risks as well as benefits associated with that treatment. I must also inform the patient of any and all risks as well as benefits associated with other options, including not receiving the recommended treatment. After that, it is the sole decision of the patient on whether or not to proceed with the treatment for themselves or for their child. The full choice resides with them. It matters not what I feel the patient should do, nor what I would do. They then make the decision. They do or do not provide consent, and thereby assume all responsibility and consequences of that choice. If there is not informed consent, if I fail to provide the full information of risk and benefit, withhold information, steer a particular direction by omitting information, or if I do not allow the patient choice through mandate, coercion, or force, then I am the one ethically and legally responsible for the consequences and the outcome. Are you prepared to assume this same responsibility should you decide to take away choice and mandate masks in our school? Mask wearing is not without risk, and where there is risk, there must be choice. It is up to the individual, not the institution, to decide whether those risks are worth the offset of any benefit they may or may not provide. I implore you to allow this choice to remain with the parents where it belongs, whether they want to or do not want to mask their child. If you do vote to return to mask mandate, I assume you will be honoring mask exemptions, since there is no longer a virtual option in place for elementary students, and the application deadline for Milton Wired for fall semester for those students in grades 7 through 12 was August 15, 2021. Thank you for your time and for your support of mask choice.
and those who sent letters in. I, unlike Joe, do not have cows that I need to milk at 4:30. So I know I've spent many hours over the past few days reading all of your emails, and I appreciate the feedback. I also know the other board members have done that, and I thank the board for their time in reading all of the opinions and the emails. And based on the decision the board made earlier, we are now going to move on to item number 3. We've already done item number 2. This is not a forum where you just shout out when you want to, and it is my job to make sure that this meeting is run by policy and by protocol, and it will be. If you continue, I will ask you to be removed from this meeting. This meeting is adjourned, or not adjourned, this meeting is in recess for 5 minutes. And I will tell you, because it's my job to make sure this meeting is run properly, that if we come back after 5 minutes and this continues, then this meeting will be adjourned. Because I said from the very beginning, we are going to conduct ourselves as adults. And so I'm just saying, 5-minute recess, we will come back at 9:10, and we will carry on with the meeting. down to item number 3 on the agenda, superintendent update. We will start with letter A, update on the COVID-19 data and Milton Forward Plan. Mr. Dumbin, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. A couple things that I want to share, some pieces of information and some data from Rock County. The COVID update from Rock County Health Department is as of August 19th, so last week. The number of positive cases are increasing across the county and across the school district. Our school district data per 10,000 residents, this is not students or staff, it is total residents across the school district, is 27.3 positive cases per 10,000. Again, that was as of August 19th of 21. That is our highest total since February 4th of 2021, and it's 3 times higher than exactly 1 year ago, in late August of 2020. There were 3 more COVID-19 deaths in Rock County over the past 2 weeks. Rock County reports that the number of fully vaccinated adults in our school district is at 61.2 of those eligible for the vaccination, and 54% of 12 through 18-year-olds. They're still reporting that the vaccine availability for those under 12 years old is likely a few months out, hopefully by the end of the calendar year. And this wasn't reported last week by Rock County Health Department, but it's related to that topic. Today the FDA did grant full approval to the vaccine. Rock County Health Department also reported that the Delta variant cases continue in Wisconsin and Rock County, that the Delta variant is more contagious, has a higher transmission rate, and also is affecting younger people. From March through late June, 95% of the COVID deaths have been those who are unvaccinated. So we've seen that the vaccine is highly effective in limiting hospitalizations and death. We are seeing outbreaks in states where schools have opened, resulting in those schools needing to pivot to either virtual instruction or closing completely because of the large number of positive cases in those areas. The COVID-19 family guide that is in board docs is listed with our current protocols. That is in agenda item 3B, but if you're interested, you can open that up, and as I just shared, that's listed with our current protocols that were approved earlier. If there are changes, we would update that document and get it out to families this week. And we do know that some students, if we do move to universal masking, we know that some students will need exceptions. This was a question that came up from one of the speakers. We definitely would follow federal, state, and local laws regarding medical or religious exceptions for students or staff members or visitors in our schools, as the case may be. And then the one other item that I wanted to share before opening up to the board for questions or concerns in this agenda item is just that we're working with the State Department of Health Services on having available on-site testing for COVID testing for students or staff members who are interested in taking part in that. That availability of tests allows people to determine if they've been a close contact, allows them to determine if they are positive or not. Part of our quarantine protocol through Rock County Health Department allows students or staff members to end their quarantine sooner if they have a negative test. So we're working on having that on-site testing available, which will allow us to more quickly have an opportunity for students or staff members who are interested in getting a COVID test and finding out if they are positive or not. So those were the things that I wanted to highlight in the update on the data and the Milton Forward Plan. I do have a couple other things that I want to share that will be in agenda item 3B. But are there any questions or thoughts from board members specific to the data that we shared or the Milton Forward Plan?
together.
Printed it.
Yeah.
Our communications coordinator does our communications for the school district, and she and the school nurse did most of the putting it together, I guess. That's what you're asking. I'm not sure if you're asking who did the actual printing of it or who determined what was going to be included in it.
The second part.
The determination of what was included in it was a joint effort between our school nurse, our communications coordinator, who also, part of her job description is safety for students and staff, and myself.
Thank you. It appears, I noted in the family guide that there are instances that regardless of mask wearing, if you're a close contact, you will have to quarantine unless you're vaccinated. I noted that those who have recovered from COVID within 90 days don't have to quarantine with or without a mask. And it appears also that this document really should be incentive enough the way that it's written for people to want to wear a mask in order to avoid quarantine for those that choose to do so. I know we received a lot of emails that indicate that schools have shut down if they're unmasked, but there are schools all across the South who have closed who had a mask mandate. So I would like to keep that in mind. And I think it's important to note that that schools in the South are not schools in the North. And while yes, the virus can spread, I think we need to understand that our numbers are completely different than what they are in the South for a lot of reasons. And I don't think basing our situation off of what is happening in the South should be a factor at all. I think with the guide, I just wanted to point out, I thought the matrix was very well done, and it was very, very easy to read. So I would like to add that. Thank you.
Any more questions or comments for Rich before he moves on? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Dahman will move on to part B of the superintendent update.
The second agenda item is discussion and possible action on the universal masking protocol. And listed on the agenda is Dr. Daniel Beardmore, pediatrician. And Dr. Beardmore had reached out to me at the end of last week asking if he could come to the board meeting and as a representative of all of the pediatricians with Janesville SSM Health and Mercy Health and share thoughts from that group with the board. When we set the board agenda, we set up a spot for him to be able to do that. He contacted me toward the end of the day today and said that because of a family illness, he was not going to be able to make it, but he sent an email that he would like, that is the gist of the message that he was going to give to the board. Well, it's not ideal because it doesn't give him an opportunity to answer any questions that come from the board. I will read the email that he had sent. My name is Dan Beardmore, currently serving in the volunteer role as the Janesville School District Medical Advisor, selected for this position by local school nurses. I and my pediatric colleagues are unanimously in favor of universal masking for all school children of all ages. We would like to formally recommend this for our local school districts. This includes all Janesville SSM and Mercy pediatricians who take care of so many of the Milton families. The reasons are many. First of all, it was amazing that the district was able to keep so many kids in school last year. This was only possible because of masks. If children return without masks, they will get sick. And even if it's not COVID, their school nurses will be forced to send them home to get tested, work harder than they already have to find out all contacts, and do the same for them, and put tons of students into quarantines. We, your local healthcare offices, will be inundated with requests for tests, more than we can efficiently handle. When this happens, not if, there's no way schools will be able to stay full, and it's known that the majority of students learn better in person. person. Take a second here to think about our school nurses. They had an unbelievably difficult job last year. If we're going back to full in-person without masks, we're asking them to do a truly impossible job this year. The next reason, and this one continues to focus on adults, is in regard to students' parents. As I highlighted above, when, not if, students are sent home in large numbers, their parents will have to leave their jobs to come and pick up their kids, then stay home with them during quarantines. There are already many examples of schools that have returned across the country without masks, and the entire schools have had to shut down because so many students and staff were home. We will be next in Wisconsin if we go back maskless. Let me level with you all. When masks rules were removed at the end of last school year, I'll be honest, it made some sense then. The pandemic was slowing, and we had data that showed kids were not getting sick very often, nor were they spreaders of this virus. This has all changed now. Our country at large has as much COVID now as we had last fall during the peak before available vaccines. This currently includes neighboring states and nearby communities. Wisconsin will be next because our unvaccinated rates are similar in adults and kids under 12, of course, because they don't have a choice. And this new Delta virus is now affecting kids at greater numbers. Data showing 14 to 18% of all new cases. Plus, there are more children deaths, with all but 7 states having reported new child deaths due to COVID as of last week. Our neighboring districts have already decided on universal masking. Everywhere in Dane County, for example, and those school districts like nearby Stoughton in Oregon, decided on universal masks even before the county-wide ordinance. To our south, Beloit is returning with masks on. Also, by the way, buses should be included where kids are in close contact and in large numbers. Did you know there are many more kids on school buses in America every day than in all other public transportation combined? My final words. This is not a question about the science, nor is it a political debate. Simply, when students are sent home to struggle like they did last year, when parents need to stop working to stay at home quarantining, and if even one child gets very ill or God forbid dies because we didn't do the one simple thing, which is to have our children wear masks in school, what will we adults who make these decisions with the education, health, and safety of our youth in our mind be able to say? Dr. Dan Beardmore, SSM Health Pediatrics. So I wanted to share that information on behalf of Dr. Beardmore, since he wasn't able to be here. And then I also want to highlight information that I shared out to parents and staff at the end of last week. I know that we have some people in our audience and watching who aren't parents in the district or staff members, and they may not have seen this information, so I want to highlight some things from this. And I'll start with the letter that I sent out. It was School District of Milton parents and staff. As we've worked together throughout the pandemic, our school district has maintained a focus on 2 guiding principles: limiting the risks to the health and safety of our students, parents, families, and community, while continuing to provide a high-quality education for our students. As I look back over the past 18-plus months, it's clear that this focus has served us extremely well. Another aspect of our approach which has served us well has been our regular communication with the medical and public health experts at the Centers for Disease Control, the Wisconsin Department of Health Services, and Rock County Public Health Department. These groups have provided much-needed leadership and guidance to schools and communities throughout the pandemic. Placing this professional guidance at the forefront of our decision-making process has allowed us to make decisions based on facts and data. Earlier in the summer, when the number of COVID-19 positive cases waned across the state and our region, we made a decision to start the upcoming school year with masking recommended but not required for students and staff. At the time, it was stated that we would revisit this decision should the situation change. Unfortunately, the situation with regard to COVID-19 is no longer the same as it was in early July. As we look at trends of positive COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, not only among the entire population, but also among school-aged children, we see an alarming picture. In many areas where schools have opened, we not only see an increase in the number of positive COVID-19 cases, but we also see a number of schools pivoting to fully virtual instruction. We all understand the importance of taking steps to both keep our students safe and maintain on-site education and extracurricular activities. As recommended by the CDC, DHS, and Rock County Public Health Department, one way to do this is to layer the safety protocols which have been shown to limit the spread of COVID-19. With that in mind, on Monday, August 23rd, I'll make a recommendation to the school board that we begin the upcoming school year with universal masking in place for all individuals. In the letter, I shared information about the upcoming meeting that I won't read now, but I closed by saying I want to thank all parents and staff members for their feedback during these trying times. We appreciate hearing from all of you on this issue. We understand that there are strong feelings on all sides of this topic and want to remind everyone to respect the views of those who hold a different opinion. I also want to acknowledge the difficult decisions that our school board members have made and continue to make. These 7 individuals all weigh this and every issue heavily and work together to make decisions in the best interest of our entire student body. Along with that letter that went to all staff members and parents in our school district, I included the memo that's also included in board docs. And in the memo, it speaks to how in July, when the decision was made to begin the school year with face coverings being optional, the number of positive COVID-19 cases across the state, county, and school district were very low. Since that time, the number of positive COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths have risen, and the CDC, DHS, and the Rock County Public Health Department all recommend that universal masking be incorporated as a vital portion of the effort to maintain multiple layers of safety protocol. In addition to the increase in the number of positive COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, areas of this country where the school year has already begun are seeing multiple cases of schools needing to pivot to fully virtual instruction or to having to close down completely. Throughout the pandemic, our district has maintained a focus on limiting the risk to students, staff, families, and community while providing a high-quality education for all students. Based on the recommendation from the medical and professional health experts at the CDC, DHS, and Rock County Public Health Department, I recommend that we move to universal masking at the start of the upcoming school year with the following guidelines. Masking should be universal for all 4 K-12 students, staff, and visitors on school grounds and during district events. Universal masking shall apply to all individuals when indoors and in the presence of others, regardless of physical distance. Universal masking shall apply to all individuals except when physical or medical limitations, as defined by the CDC, prevent the individual from wearing a face mask or a face covering. A note from a medical provider is required for those who qualify for mask accommodations and will be handled on a case-by-case basis. The expiration of the district's order would not supersede or override any mandates from local, state, or federal governments or agencies. For example, the CDC order for all individuals to wear masks on public forms of transportation shall remain in place if still in effect, even if our universal requirement timeline has expired. And lastly, universal masking would not automatically pertain to outdoor activities, including recess and gym class. Should any local, state, or federal health agency recommend yet mask use for outdoor events, the district may alter the requirement to include outdoor masking with board approval. The board should review the universal requirements during the second regularly scheduled board meeting each month. And then I closed with a recommended motion, move to approve the school district of Milton universal masking protocol effective September 1st, 2021 as presented.
Is there something?
Just a couple things just in general on that, and then we'll be interested in board comments or able to answer any questions that board members have. I want to stress the Rock County Health Department recommendation around multiple layers of protection. That includes the strongly recommending masks indoors by all people, the physical distancing of at least 3 feet, the quarantining for close contacts, which is required by Wisconsin Statute 252, And the importance of not counting on one or a few of those requirements, but those multiple layers have shown to be effective in not only limiting the spread of COVID, which protects the health and safety of our students, staff, families, and community, but also limiting the number of close contacts, which allows us to stay open as a school and as a school district, and allows us to continue to provide both our on-site opportunities for students academically and our extracurricular activities. So in general, we follow those two principles that I spoke to earlier. We would continue to communicate with Rock County Public Health Department and make decisions based on data. And in front of the board are mainly two options: maintaining what was approved back on July 12th, or following the recommended motion as presented. That was everything that I wanted to share.
Thank you, Rich. Are there any questions for Rich?
Yeah. You stated, Mr. Donovan, that wearing masks and having all the other preventative measures will help mitigate. Do you have a copy of a study that shows that masks work? Because I haven't been able to find one, a peer-reviewed study.
The guidelines from the CDC and Rock County Health Department and DHS stress the importance of wearing masks, and that's based on. If I could be allowed to answer the question, please.
Yeah.
And that's based on the information from the medical and public health experts in those areas. So I don't have any studies in front of me, and I don't feel that it's my role to share those studies. I think that the medical and public health experts with those organizations who do that for a living have done that.
Well, I just asked because we're following those organizations, and they haven't been able to provide any either. And as I mentioned before, down in the South, in Atlanta, there's 23,000 students who have to be quarantined, and they had a mask policy. So I guess I'm wondering how having a mask policy, a forced mask policy, by changing what we had already approved, is going to make any difference in mitigating the risk factors.
What we've seen throughout the pandemic, both here locally and across the nation, actually across the world, is that those layered safety protocols work to limit the spread of COVID. If I could please answer the question, thank you. It doesn't eliminate the possibility of spread. So and I've never said, and no one with any of those organizations, I don't think, has ever said that mask wearing by itself eliminates the possibility that someone could pass along COVID or catch COVID. It's a level of risk, and by limiting, and what we've talked about all along in our district is limiting that risk. By wearing masks, we decrease the likelihood that an individual is going to catch COVID, that there's going to be larger outbreaks of COVID, and that by limiting that risk, that makes it more likely that we're able to have fewer positive cases. It doesn't eliminate the possibility of positive cases, but it definitely decreases the likelihood of positive cases, and it increases the likelihood that we will be able to keep our schools open for students and maintain both on-site education and maintain our extracurricular activities.
Except I think the point is, though, that even with masks, a mandated mask policy, there are schools that still have to close for 2 weeks or more. So the point of it is, and you mentioned this, that we do a risk-benefit analysis, but parents do that on a daily basis. So knowing that there are possible long-term side effects, which if Dr. Beardmore had been here, I would have asked him a series of questions about this, but there are long-term side effects that we don't know, and some that we do. It was mentioned in comments that masks cause glasses to fog up, they cause acne, they distract from learning, they can become vectors for other pathogens, they inhibit children during crucial stages of development, and theoretically they cause facial deformities. I do have a study for that. And knowing all that, it's extremely important to me, at least, and I speak for myself and not the board as a whole, that it should be up to the parents. And we made that decision in June. Yes, the numbers are not going to be the same as they were in July. They're going to go up and they're going to go down. But it should not be something that we have to address when you have such a minor significant change as what we've been seeing over the last couple of months. It should be left up to the parents to decide. And if the parents choose to have their children wear masks, that is completely fine. They're taking into consideration what was developed in the family guide, just like those that choose not to have their kids wear a mask, or for their own students to choose not to wear a mask. I wish the doctor had been here, because I think it's important to be able to ask questions of someone who specifically asked to be here, and then was unable to do that. I realize that he had a very good reason, but I find that his message is not really contributing to a useful dialogue on this topic. He doesn't appear to be doing the same risk-benefit analysis that the parents do, as I mentioned before. The side effects, they have not been sufficiently explored, and we have to take those into consideration when you're talking about mandating children to wear a mask for 8 hours or more. There's actually a well-respected physician, Dr. Marty McCary. He's a researcher at Johns Hopkins, and he observed in an op-ed on August 8th that of the $42 billion that the NIH spent on research last year, that less than 2% went to COVID clinical research, and not a single grant was dedicated to studying masks on children. I have that citation too, if you guys are interested. We can go back and forth on this, and we want to make sure that, like we have here, that we have healthy debate. But at the same time, we need to consider all those long-term risks, and we need to make sure that we are providing that choice to parents. Well, really, it's not even us providing that choice to parents. The parents have the choice. We shouldn't be making any more decisions. And I appreciate, hearing from everyone tonight. It takes a lot of courage, guys, to get up here and speak. And so, on every side of the issue, thank you very much. We're here to do the business of education. And while we have a duty to mitigate the risk while kids are in the buildings, it's not our business to overrule a rational parental decision made in the student's best interest. So, like I said, if your analysis is that masks will benefit your child, then have them wear a mask. And if your analysis is that masks will not benefit your child, then they shouldn't be forced to wear a mask. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to speak next. I respectfully disagree with some of your points. When I go to my personal physician, I don't ask if he has a study or she has a study on why she is wearing a mask and wearing protective clothing and PPE while they're doing surgery on me. That is best practice. That is the reason they do that, to prevent and mitigate those types of issues. And if you look at the healthcare workers that are on the front of this, they are also using PPEs for that reason. It's not going to eliminate it. There have been healthcare workers that have been affected to die, but it does reduce that. I feel my goal up here is to keep our students in person. We want to get back to school. We want to get back to the basics and have them with us, and keep our staff in person. Continue with activities, sports, band, choir, and keep our schools functioning the way they should. I am nobody wants to be having a mask on right now. I had to wear it last year and I saw that, how stressful it was for the teachers and staff, and I personally experienced that. But if that means keeping us safe and keeping us in person and keeping sports going and activities going, then I am in favor for a temporary placement of mask mandate for our district. Last spring, I witnessed several families whose parents were infected at work and brought it home to their children. So then there were children who were quarantined due to the parents' workplace infection. So it's not necessarily always at school. It could be, from within the family and from being out about with other things. And I think our goal is to keep everyone that we can safe and keep things functioning here in our district. And I'm in favor of the mandate at this point right now.
Shelley, I'm not disagreeing with trying to keep people safe. What I disagree with is taking away the choice. And you bring into the picture what surgeons do and what they wear. Our kids are not surgeons, and they're not wearing the same equipment that a surgeon does. And surgeons only wear masks to protect their patients from bacterial infection, not from viral infection. Because that's not what surgical masks are meant to do anyway.
Is that better? Okay. I also want to thank you for sharing that letter from Dr. Beardmore. I've long thought that our local medical professionals have been much too quiet on this issue, so it was nice to hear from him, so thank you for that. I believe that we need to have our schools open every day this year. We need every student in school every day this fall. This year is going to look a lot different than last year without the cohorts and with much more crowded classrooms. I also believe that any discussion of masks needs to involve talk of our youngest students who haven't yet been able to be vaccinated. In a few months, hopefully the status of this vaccine for our youngest students will look a lot different, but that will take some time. I would like to make a motion to approve the School District of Milton Universal Masking Protocol effective September 1, 2021 as presented.
I would like to stay that motion because we have not heard from every board member.
There's no reason the motion isn't even up for vote yet because it hasn't even been seconded, and after the second, if there is a second, that's when discussion takes place. So that gives every board member plenty of opportunity to say what they would like to say. So there is a motion on the floor.
Mike, I spent the weekend, like many of you, reading through the emails and contemplating what's before us tonight. And as I spent time doing this, the thing that kept occurring to me is that no one signed up for this. Let's start with that. 18 months ago, no one thought we'd be here in this room tonight discussing whether or not to mandate masks this fall. Yet, here we are. Texas, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri all share three unfortunate things right now. First is that they are having an explosion of COVID cases. The second is that their hospitals, by and large, are struggling to serve those who are sick. And the third is that they collectively have some of the lowest vaccination rates in the country. As a school board member, we receive many emails regarding this issue. Some have links to information, and generally I take a moment to check to see if the source is considered reputable. As it turns out, the internet has no filter for truth and half-truth. I independently went to the website of the Mayo Clinic. I believe the Mayo Clinic is universally respected as both a reputable source and a source of cutting-edge medical information. As of August 18th, the Mayo Clinic reported that 51% of the country is fully vaccinated, and that 60% of the country has gotten at least one dose. The clinic offers interactive data, and I was able to learn that 15% of people under 18 in Wisconsin have gotten at least one dose, and only 12% of those under 18 in Wisconsin are fully vaccinated. Correlation between states seeing the highest rates of hospitalization and the lowest rates of vaccinations is undeniable. So much so that Alabama's governor, Kay Ivey, recently was quoted as saying, among other things, almost 100% of new hospitalizations are with unvaccinated folks, and the deaths are certainly occurring in the unvaccinated folks. Reflecting on this, it's very concerning to me that among the general population here in Wisconsin, the lowest rate of collective vaccination would be among our student body on the first day of school. Let me say that again. The lowest rate of vaccination is among the most precious asset in this community, and that's our kids. I volunteered for this job because I care about the well-being of this community. My kids, your kids, and a whole bunch of kids I'll probably never meet. Regardless of our differences, I know that the other members of this board feel the same way. Let's be honest, nothing in life works in absolutes. Rarely is 100% or 0% the answer to life's most difficult decisions. Instead, we make decisions on what is likely to work best in most cases, in most instances, and most scenarios. I know the seatbelt in my truck will not guarantee that I survive a terrible car crash, but I like my odds better if I choose to wear it. I know my winter jacket and gloves will not guarantee that I won't get frostbite on a cold day, but my odds of avoiding it are much better if I choose to wear them both. I'm also very confident that your kids and my kids will be much better off if we do everything in our power to make sure that we can attend school every day, in person, full time. What specifically would be better? Their social well-being, their physical health, and their academic success. We have great teachers, we have great support staff, and we have great administration in this district, and they can do their best work with our kids in their presence. I don't enjoy masks. I've heard different people share different things about the impact that they have on kids. I did find a December 2020 study from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, again a generally accepted source of sound scientific analysis. The study concluded that masks are unlikely to dramatically impair children's social interactions in their everyday lives. To be clear, it didn't say that there's no impact. I get that. I've got many emails regarding the effectiveness of masks. As we mentioned earlier, I decided to check out what the Mayo Clinic had to say about them. According to them, cloth masks trap respiratory droplets when the wearer coughs or sneezes. It also acts as a barrier to protect the wearer from inhaling droplets released by others. That seems reasonable. No one. Water droplets are small, but not anywhere to the magnitude of viruses and oxygen molecules. It can help stop water droplets that contain the virus while allowing smaller things like oxygen molecules to pass through. Once again, let's be clear. No one, including myself, enjoys wearing a mask. I'll go as far as saying that no one even sort of likes wearing a mask. As I said before, I get that. Having worn a mask in these meetings before, I'll confirm they don't prohibit communication, but I'll acknowledge they don't make it any easier either. I've heard many people say they don't know anyone who's been affected by COVID. I'm not sure if that's supposed to lessen its importance. Speaking for myself, I lost a former teacher of mine. I consider this person a friend as well. It seemed our paths crossed with regular frequency from the time that I was a child to the time I last saw him last year. Somehow he contracted the virus, and now he's gone. I'm saddened by the loss of my friend, and I'm heartbroken by the loss to his family. It seems the school year starts sooner down south than it does here in Wisconsin. Many districts down there already have had a few weeks under their belts. One of them, Hillsborough County Public Schools in Florida, the 7th largest district in the country. In a few days of opening, they had over 6,000 students and 300 staff members who had already been confirmed with or exposed to COVID. On the other end of the spectrum, a Fox television affiliate in Texas reported that 3 small school districts in Texas have already shut down due to an early outbreak of COVID. As I said earlier, and it bears repeating, areas of the country with low vaccination rates are experiencing outbreaks of COVID. Parts of the country are once again struggling to find hospital beds in which to care for those who are sick. We're on the cusp of bringing more than 3,400 students and hundreds of staff people back together again. As also stated earlier, the combined vaccination rate among this group is going to be very, very low. Part of the planning for the future involves reflecting on our past. On August 19th, 2020, we had 4.55 COVID cases per 10,000 in our area. That number, to most of us I think will agree, felt low. That number made what I think was what we can agree was an unacceptable climb to 128.9 cases per 10,000 by the 5th of November. Current data shows 27.8 cases per 10,000. At first blush, I felt this felt low, but unfortunately, it's roughly 6 times more than where we were at this point last year. The point of my saying this is to reinforce that we do not want to end up this year where we were last year. I hope we can all agree on that observation. And hopefully we can avoid what happened last year, because just over half the state has chosen to get vaccinated this year. Roughly 170 million Americans have chosen to get vaccinated to date. Today, the FDA issued a full approval of the vaccine. Hopefully this news will help boost the rate of vaccinations both locally and nationally. In that regard, hopefully we'll avoid severe spikes occurring elsewhere in the country and the world. I would argue that our job as a board is to hedge on the side of caution. Based on the evidence, based on the audience here tonight and the hundreds of emails that we've received on this topic, and yes, we have all read them, I can appreciate there are strong feelings on both sides of this issue. Despite what divides us, I'm acutely aware of what unites us as well. We all want our kids to be healthy and happy. We all want to do whatever we can to ensure these schools are open full-time with in-person learning. Unfortunately, our schools lack the same level of COVID protection that is currently found in other social circles, both locally and regionally. Looking forward, the landscape improves both with the expected expanded access to vaccines and the full FDA approval of COVID vaccines. There is and remains hope. It's worth noting these protocols proposed this evening are significantly relaxed relative to what we were dealing with last year. Make no mistake, this board universally would prefer that we didn't have to have this discussion. We would universally prefer that we could focus our energies on other important issues. Unfortunately, that's not where we are today. My desire to take every prudent action to avoid virtual school, to avoid as many quarantines of my children and your children as possible, and instead keep our schools open in person and full time. I support beginning the year with the indoor masking protocol as presented.
So you don't have to bang your little thing. Fine, whatever. He was not a volunteer.
Is
That's
there
a lie.
other?
Yes, Mike, I'll go next.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay. All right, so I too would like to thank the numerous parents and school district residents who have reached out to us. I have read each and every email that was sent my way. I'm grateful for those who thanked us for our service and time and dedication to the district, and for those who seem to understand what a difficult position we are in. I'm not grateful for the parents who accused myself, along with my fellow board members, of being irresponsible, being one-sided, not listening to you, apparently being bullied by the mask choice group, and my worst one, we were accused of suffocating your child. The decision tonight is one that we have agonized over, and we have done our homework. All 7 of us are not going to agree on this topic. But that doesn't mean we don't care about your children. And it certainly doesn't mean that we are taking a specific side. I believe the role of a board member goes beyond just education, as it is also important to help ensure the safety of our entire school communities, teachers and staff. I feel we are tasked with bringing students back together, keeping them safe and in the classroom as much as possible. Either decision that we make tonight can be changed based on new facts, data, and outcomes within the next several weeks and months. I feel we will make the best decision that we can at this time, tonight. Time will tell if we need to adjust.
Thank you, Jen. I will remind the board there is a motion on the floor that has not been seconded yet.
Since there hasn't been a second, can I make a motion?
you can't make a motion when there's already a motion on the floor. I will second the motion, and then discussion should continue. So there's a motion on the floor made by Rick Mullen, seconded by Mike Hoffman, to approve the School District of Milton Universal Masking Protocol effective September 1st, 2021 as presented. And so discussion will now continue.
I'll go next, Mike, as I think everyone wants all of us to weigh in. I will echo a lot of the comments I've heard up here tonight, and I even heard a bunch of them at the podiums. I would start by thanking everyone for coming, for sharing your opinions, whether it was electronically or in person. You heard my comments earlier about trying to find a little compromise here between not being here till midnight. We may very well be, who knows, but trying to hear folks' input on this. Jennifer's comments are very similar to mine. You know, please, please, please don't assume that we don't care about your kids. That's why we all stepped into this job. This has presented a challenge greater than any of us ever estimated could even come before us. So specifically to the issue at hand, I struggled with this, and I will tell you, as COVID has unfolded through this, I will reserve the right to change my mind. New facts, new issues, new circumstances, new challenges may cause me to change my mind, and I think I have changed it a half a dozen times as this thing has unfolded. I can assure you we are not, as a board, here to rubber stamp anything that gets put before us. We're here to work cooperatively with our administrative folks to put together a product for your kids, for the community, for your kids, etc. So we're not rubber stamping anything, and I want to dispel that immediately. So the four-letter word in the room, right? M-A-S-K. That's what drew you all here. That's what's got us debating this, etc. So as I struggled with this, I might even change my mind a half a dozen times today as to where I thought I was. But what gave me the clarity, at least personally, where I think I'm going to land on this, is as I sat there at home with a mask in my hands. I had a little blue and white one, the disposable kind that probably got passed out here at school or whatever. I've got a few of the, I guess they're neck gaiters that you pull over your head and pull up past your nose. And we've got several of the cloth ones that have the elastic pieces to hold them around your ears. So I sat there and looked at them and tried to crystal ball a little bit about what happens if we choose A or B. Mask, no mask, or no requirement for a mask. So that shed light on one thing, that it's not all or none, folks. If we choose to say mask choice, that won't mean 0 masks on any of our kids and staff. I hope that folks choose to do that, and I hope lots of folks choose to do that. But you see, I use the word choose in there because I think I want to land on the side of making you choose that. The other way I looked into my crystal ball and said, well, if we universally mask, what does that give us? It's been talked about at length of what it does to our kids, and I can't disagree with any of that. So that's a real sticky part of this for me. I don't know if I could, in my conscience, advocate something that does any of the numerous things that has been negatively attributed to the masks. To assign the masks some credibility is a bit of a stretch for me because of watching all of you folks for a year and a half, both kids and adults. I would venture to say that, this is anecdotal at best, that a quarter to a third of them are worn correctly or properly. So and it's probably magnified by the fact of, if we force you to wear a mask, I'm gonna guess there's a big chunk of folks that won't wear it right. And I don't want any part of becoming the mask police. As a board or as administrators or teachers, I just don't want that challenge thrust upon them. So to enforce a mask, or to support a universal masking that, in essence, I don't think gives us any kind of certainty. And I do wholeheartly agree that the mitigation strategies have to be multiple layered, I guess is the way we want to talk about it. I'm not going to advocate for eliminating any of the other things that we can do. We can distance to the best of our ability. We'll certainly encourage washing of hands, and for God's sake, stay home if you're sick, get tested, think about the other kids, think about each other, and I know you'll do that, because this community always has. So, I don't need to ramble any longer, and I was part of the reason for limiting the debate to start with, so I guess I would succinctly say that I think masks are a great thing. I'm not in favor of mandating it.
Thank you, Joe. Is there any other discussion? I'd like to make a few comments. First of all, I'd like to say to my fellow 6 board members, I'm very proud to be serving as the president of this board. You're very well thought out people. You put a lot of time into serving on this board, and I appreciate everything you do for this community. Many of you know that before I became a board member, I was a teacher in this district for 30 years. And if you think I don't care about your kids, then you don't know me very well. I specifically remember in the latter years of my teaching as we would have armed intruder practices, thinking that if that really did happen in Milton, God forbid, that I would gladly have sacrificed for your kids. And I still feel that way. And I've never had kids in the district. But your kids have always been important to me. For 30 years, they've been important to me. And I still work with kids in this community at my church, because kids are important to me, and they always will be. And that's why I ran for the board, because I thought it was important that a person who has experience with education be on the board. I still feel that way, and I care for your kids. Having said that, I agree that I think the common thing I heard from everyone, and as I read through the hundreds of emails and heard the comments tonight, is that we want our kids in school. We want our kids to be in person. And my decision tonight is based on that, and the health experts, is we want our kids in school. We know that's what's best for kids. We know kids learn best when they're with their teachers in person. And so my decision tonight is based on that. So if there is no more discussion, we will vote on the motion that is on the floor and seconded, and I will repeat it. The motion is to approve the School District of Milton Universal Masking Protocol effective September 1st, 2021 as presented. And we will do a roll call vote. Dave, I will start with you.
I will vote for that.
Is that a yes, Dave?
That's a yes.
Thank you. Joe?
Joe is a no.
Leslie?
No.
Mike is a yes. Rick?
Yes.
Jennifer?
No.
And Shelley?
Yes.
So for my calculation, that is a 4-3 vote. The motion passes.
repercussions are coming. After you up for election next year.
You got it. Recall.
I am really disappointed, and those are threats personally towards me. You said you're supposed to be respectful. You're not respectful.
You don't bring this on to us if we can't address you.
And I am not
You
going to
cannot
be
address us if we cannot address you.
I am
You
not
are
going to
here.
be
This is
threatened.
our kid. This is our choice, not yours. You will be recalled.
Sorry.
We have some important business to still conduct. I would like to conduct it.
Thank you very much.
Moving on in the agenda, we are on to item number 4.
Great, thanks. I'll take over.
Thank you, Jennifer.
On Friday, the board members and district leaders met with a professional planner to start the process of updating our strategic plan. We started with 2 categories, the community engagement category, and we wrapped up with the facilities and service categories. In both of those categories, we did identify the accomplishments to date, and then we identified strategic issues. And lastly, we finished up with some suggestions for new potential strategies. The group will meet for a second work session on September 8th, and I'd welcome any questions if you have any.
I'd just like to say thanks, Jennifer. I know you were deeply involved in setting this up and organizing the person who was the facilitator, and I appreciate the efforts and time that you put into that. So
Thank you, sure. I think it's great that he has some Milton history.
yeah, it was kind of interesting to hear that. So, any other questions or comments for Jennifer? Right, we'll move on to item number 5, item A, which is the additional music and art teacher for the 2021-22 school year. And Chris, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Mike. In your board packet is a memo from John Ryan and myself outlining our recommendation that the board approve 1 additional section each for art and music classes at Northside due to our projected enrollment and class sizes for 21-22 school year. This would bring both positions FTE to 0.58. And these positions have the potential to be needed beyond the 21-22 school year based on the recently added 4th grade teaching position at Northside. And the approximate financial impact to the district would be $7,000 for the increase in both of these positions. So it's 0.06 FTE increase.
Where is the money coming from for that increase?
So this is not uncommon, and these costs will be built into this fall's budget. And we are not looking for any kind of motion. This will be diverted to the staffing report, which we have the new contracts listed out there. We have a new teacher that we're looking for board approval tonight for the art, and then it would be increasing our current existing music teacher to that new FTE of 0.58.
Thank you for that, Chris, because I was just going to ask you if it was an action item, but you just answered that, so thank you. Any questions for Chris? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susan will turn it over to you for a discussion and possible action on the equitable services report.
Thank you. This is an annual report. It's required. We are to set aside some federal funds for private schools. It's called equitable services. And there are a number of compliance pieces that go with that. So each year I meet with the one private school that's in the school district's boundaries, and that is the Montessori School, Rock Prairie. And in that meeting I describe the child find process, both the informal and the formal process. We discuss the fact that children who are attending a private school actually don't have a right to individual services in special education. However, we do need to allocate a portion of our federal funds to be used to educate them. So if we have 3 children there and there's not enough money to serve them, all 3 of them, with special education services, the district and Montessori decide on how that would work. I talked through how we determine that proportion, and that is mandated by the state, and it's actually quite an easy flow through of the process. And then we talk about the consulting process. Each time a child is identified, we talk through what those services would look like and how and when those services would be provided. The allocation determination is done October 1st. And so for this year's allocation, we looked at last year's October 1st, and at that time there were no students at the Montessori School that had been identified with a disability. And so there's actually no funds set aside for them out of this year's budget. However, last year we had to allocate some for the previous year's October 1st, and so we have some carryover of about $3,000. We have a couple of kids who will probably be referred for special education evaluation, and we will save that $3,000 in case their referral generates a qualification with a disability. The staff from our district that provide services there, I have listed in there Danielle Marco. She's the school psych who serves East and Harmony. Because Harmony is so close to the Montessori, she runs over and does any evaluations. And last year we used the speech path from Northside, who has a little more flexibility in her schedule, to provide the speech services, and she will do the same if that is indeed the case. Sarah Stuckey and I, we share the responsibilities of the LEA because in each of those meetings need to have somebody from the district who can allocate resources. This is an action item.
I was going to just say
Sorry.
to the board that you're good, Susan. This is an action item.
I'll make a motion to approve the equitable services report as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor made by Rick, seconded by Dave to approve the equitable services report as presented. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Moving on to item C, discussion and possible action on changes to the 2020-21 adopted budget. Ms. Bradley.
Hello. Excuse me, this is an action item, and I just like to take this opportunity to kind of review the process that gets us to this point, especially since we had the annual meeting tonight. So it's an opportunity to kind of tie some things together for you, and I will try and do that briefly. So if you recall, recently, like the first step in the process is the board approved the preliminary budget that we then took to the meeting tonight. So step 2 is presenting that presenting that budget, and then having a hearing on the budget. And then as I mentioned during the presentation of the budget, this is based on what we know at this point in time. And we know that in October, we're going to get information from which you will certify the levy and formally adopt the budget. So then throughout the year, we are adapting and changing the budget based on changes in needs, or a lot of times the increase in revenue is around budgeting carryover for federal grants, right? So we know a certain point in the fall, and then after we adopt that fall budget, there can continue to be an allocation of funds in our budget, meaning they're available, but we haven't formally put them in our budget yet.
So then the next step is what we're doing here tonight. Per state statute, the Board of Education needs to approve the budget changes per state statute per the memo. And I think I pretty much covered everything in the memo as well. So did you have any questions?
Any questions for Carrie?
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the 2020-21 adopted budget as presented.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor made by Rick, seconded by Leslie to approve the changes to the 2020-21 adopted budget as presented. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. And moving down to item D, action on 2021-22 open enrollment alternative applications, which are in board docs.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021-22 open enrollment alternative applications as presented.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor made by Rick, seconded by Leslie to approve the 2021-22 open enrollment alternative applications as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving down to miscellaneous, action on staffing reports.
I'll make a motion to approve the staffing report as presented.
Second.
There is a motion on the floor made by Rick, seconded by Leslie to approve the staffing report as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carries. And action on gifts and donations.
I'll make a motion to approve the gifts and donations with gratitude.
Second.
It's 10:30.
I get it.
I mean, come on.
I like the regularity. I get it. There. You know me. I like black and white. Move to approve. There's a motion on the floor made by Rick, seconded by Leslie. Move to approve the gifts and donations with gratitude. Always with gratitude. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor respond with aye. Aye. And opposed, nay. Motion carries. Mr. Dahman, our future meeting dates.
A couple meetings that are already scheduled. We have, as Jennifer mentioned earlier, our next strategic planning committee planning workshop is on September 8th from 9 until noon. We are still finalizing a location on that, but we'll get that out as soon as the location is scheduled. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is September 13th at 6:30 p.m. That will be back at our regular location at district office. We need to schedule an HR committee meeting somewhere between September 7th and 10th. I don't know if HR committee members want to look at their calendars between September 7th and 10th.
Hey, Rich, if between the 7th and the 10th, if that doesn't work out, we could do the 30th as well as an option. It would be a Monday, non-board meeting.
Maybe we could do it on the 8th, right after that strategic planning meeting.
How much time do you think it'll take?
Half hour, 15 minutes.
If we're already there, I would say yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yep.
Sounds good.
We scheduled 9 to noon there on the 8th for the strategic planning.
Yes.
Let's do it at noon, 12, 10, or whatever.
And that is all that we have for committee meetings that we need to schedule.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
A second.
All in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Thank you.